out, didn't they?
Yeah.
I just.
Did it work out? Yeah, for the primary phase.
Thanks. First time I got elected, I just hung out at the polls in my district and watched them spit out the result of the machine. So I was like the first one.
Oh, did you?
Wow. Yeah, only had to maybe 15, 20 after the hour.
All right, everybody. 7 o'clock. So I'm going to call our Monday, April 3rd Common Council meeting to order. Megan, will you please take the roll?
Davis. Lampy. Britton. Bartz. Licht.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Schmid. Wetzel. Romline.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the first item on our agenda is the minutes of the council meeting for March 21st. Any comments or questions on those minutes? All right. Our next is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Before we open it up for comment, if you're here to speak on the Hunter Oaks Planned Unit Development and General Development Plan, I'll just ask for you to hold on to those comments. We'll do that during the public hearing. But anyone that would like to comment can come to the microphone by Alderperson Davis and just state your name and address. All right, we do have another opportunity at the end of our meeting. So now let's move on to public hearings. This is a public hearing for the Hunter Oaks Planned Unit Development and General Development Plan. I will open that public hearing. If anyone would like to comment, again, you can come to the microphone by Alderperson Davis and state your name and address. I think it's probably a good idea. Well, considering they're here to hear, I think you should probably go first.
This is on.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody, Common Council, citizens of Watertown. My name is John Donovan. I am the Acquisitions and Development Manager for Belinsky. So what I handed out tonight may help you in follow through what our plan is here for Belinsky, the city. We've been working probably for the last couple of years on this. We've been very respectful and professional, all parties, city as well. I appreciate that and I thank you for it. We've come to a conclusion that we need this general development and planned unit development back in place. It has been expired since about 2017, and for us to move forward, we need a commitment from the city, and the city needs a commitment from us. So this will be the start of it, and I'm going to go through just the sections of it and give you the ideas that Belinsky has. It is also in written form. I don't know if everybody received it, but there's a 7-page document that also is all written form, has the same information I'll be speaking on tonight. So with that, we're going to start at the front near the West Street entrance of Hunter Oaks Boulevard. So everything to the east of Hunter Oaks Boulevard, in our opinion, has been developed that Belinsky owned. So there's about 284 residential units to date that have been built by Belinsky. There are obviously, we know that right off of the boulevard in the blue section that you see, there is other developers within the subdivision now that are building. We are not a part of them, and they are not a part of our general development plan that we're looking to put back in place. So with that said, when you go to the boulevard entrance and you see Area B on both sides of the boulevard, on the east side we have completed those 8 units or 4 buildings. They were probably completed a year and a half ago, and they sold very well. So we came to the conclusion that we needed to get back in place this general development plan so we could continue the development of Belinsky for Watertown to have residential housing. So we came back and negotiated and sat down with the city staff and the mayor many times, and we have come here tonight and presenting that. So in 2023, we are planning, that is this year, and it has been approved civil engineering wise, and we're looking to go to a developer's agreement very shortly with the city to negotiate all the internal structure that needs to be developed within that so that we can build the 6 or 12 full units of the condominium project, which we call Hunter Oaks Villas. Those will be the same style building as the across the street. In the purple section, you will see an orange color going through the middle of that section. That section has been approved for the zoning only, and we will be coming back in the future to get the precise implementation plan for more condominiums there. That orange line that you see, that road has been discontinued legally. The city and Belinsky went through that, I think, a year or two ago and created the discontinuance. So that road will never be built to Western. Part of this plan is, if you see the highlighted lime green area where it says Belinsky repurchased, that area there, part of the new area, we had to repurchase from some developers that owned it in Watertown. And in order for us to be able to accomplish our goals here of putting this all back into place, we did not have control of that area, which was the most important part of it is the pond and the retention, because it's been 4 other areas just for that specific area. So it's for Area B up front, it's for Area AD, it is also for all of Area CB. So we needed that. That's our commitment, that we went out and repurchased that from the investors that purchased it 15 years ago. So then we move on to the Area G, which is kind of the pink. That has all been built out as well. Those are condominiums that Belinsky built over the years. And then we get into the single family. There are 4 sections or 4 phases of the single family that we're looking at here. Anywhere from 23 lots in each phase to 29, I think, is the highest. Our goal is to start the purple section in 2024. And the reason it's 2024 is because we want to put this plan in place so that we have a commitment and we can spend money on the civil engineering for all of that. Just so you know, the civil engineering has to be really somewhat preliminary done for the all 4 phases, so that we can put phase 1 in place. That'll be constructed in 2024. Also, the park that you see there, that's the green area I, that will be dedicated as part of the construction of all the infrastructure for the phase 1, the single family that you see. And then also in 2024, you see the area on the far southeast section of the development, which is Area K. It's a pond, retention pond. There's quite a bit. That whole pond is going to be dredged by Belinsky. Belinsky will be picking up all the costs for that dredging, and that will be part of the plan with the construction of phase 1 single family in 2024. That plan has already been reviewed by the city. It will need to obviously be updated because it was a year old, and we will be updating that with the civil engineering plans for phase 1 of the development. So Belinsky has here on the page another 213 residential housing units within Hunter Oaks subdivision left to build. And I believe there was over 500 total when this was first in place in 1999. So it's a long time. We all understand it. There's been ups and downs throughout this whole project, and Belinsky's commitment is what you see in front of them, and we've been working diligently with the city to try and get this back in place so that we have a commitment so we can spend money to move forward. Any questions at this time?
We can't do questions at this one, but
Okay, fine.
I'm sure people will pose them if they'd like to.
So let me just summarize.
Please do.
Okay, so our goal is to get this back in place, be approved by the Common Council so that we can move forward. Just so everybody understands, every section of this development moving forward will have an individual developer's agreement in place, negotiated with the city on letters of credits, dedications, and all the infrastructure that has to be installed. The only one that may not would be the single family. There would be a developer's agreement for it, but there may just be amendments to the original developer's agreement for that section for us to be able to move forward with building. So 2024, we're looking at doing the single family. 2023, we're looking at doing the upfront 6 condos. And then obviously the pond would be transferred to the city once those developments are completed, with phase 1 of the single family and the dedication of the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. As Mr. Donovan goes back, anyone that would like to comment can just come up to the microphone by Alderperson Davis and just state your name and address. Just as a reminder, we're taking minutes, so we'll jot down the questions. All of these comments and questions go back to the Plan Commission, and Planning Commission is where that discussion happens a little bit more freely. So if anyone else would like to comment, you can certainly go up to the microphone.
Ron Leroy, have a place in Hunter Oaks. We've been very happy with it, with how well it's been kept up and how well it's been given us the ability to require that things stay neatly. So I hope that continues in your, especially in the condo situations. I have a question about that lower part of that that road that you're not going to have in there. Ends at Oakland Avenue in Belmont. There's a lot of population in that area with only 2 exits. You should be around in mornings when people are leaving and rushing to their jobs. That's going to be, I think, not a very good situation. I know at one point they had talked about continuing that red part, but they didn't want to come that close to the roundabout, and I understand that also, because that's not a good situation. But obviously, if that lower orange thing is out, it takes out at least 4 units, because they'd have no way to get to where they're going if there's no road there. And that's what you're doing, is taking that road out. But anyway, I'm considering that just that the number of people that will try to use those exits in a very limited amount of time. So something to look forward to. Not me, you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leroy. And Mr. Donovan, if you'd like to, you can always follow up with people outside of this meeting. I can't control that, but we just can't do it back and forth. Yeah. Anyone else that would like to comment?
Richard Radke, 1220 Steeplechase. Yeah, and I think that area the gentleman was talking about, there was a problem with the fire department getting in there and in and out of there. And you guys might want to take a look at that pretty closely.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else that would like to comment on this one? Before I close the public hearing, I'll just remind everybody, so we aren't taking any action on this tonight. Everything will go back to the Plan Commission, and then we'll have discussion based on the feedback here this evening. I normally get one other person when I do last call.
You got area G is proposed single-family attached condos. Area C 1B, I believe, is multi-family single-family homes. What's the difference? Once you zone it multi-family, it's multi-family.
I'm not following you on where you see the multifamily. The only areas that are multifamily are areas A, B, area B, and area B in the front.
You also have area C.
The CE will be part of this inclusion if it passed as multifamily, but it won't be rental. It can only be for condominium. There will be no rentals out there.
Well, if it's zoned multi-family, that means you can put an apartment building in there.
Mr. I got it. So, Mr. Radke, I can follow up with you after the meeting if you want to stick around on how what stops are in place to dictate what, if it's owned or rented, and all the meetings that occur leading up to that final decision on what's made and what's built. Or you can come to Plan Commission, either one works, or Mr. Donovan can catch you once the public hearing's over. Look, you guys, the people that sit around this, you know this. I hate that we can't talk back and forth. It feels very unnatural. But the city attorney is going to start tapping me on the computer very soon, reminding me we can't have public discussion because it wasn't noticed. Mr. Radke, would you mind just jotting down your address for me? And that was Mr. Radke. Yep. And then if we could have your name and address as well too, either on a sheet of paper or you can state it out loud. We just have to keep it for the minutes. Does someone want to grab them? Do you want to grab maybe like the small sheets for our 3 commenters? Anyone else that would like to comment on this public hearing? All right, so I'm going to close that public hearing, and again, these comments will go back to the Plan Commission. We do post our Plan Commission agenda and meeting times on the city website, on the Facebook page, at 3 locations throughout the city, including here, the library and the senior center, and we do those in person and virtual, so lots of opportunities to join. And then normally at this point, there's a mass exodus of people, so if anyone was only here for that item, feel free. And otherwise, I'm sure Mr. Donovan would be happy to chat with you as well, as long as it's in the hallway, so we can keep the meeting going. All right, let's move on then. And thank you all so much for coming. I hope I see you at Plan Commission. Let's move on to reports. You all have the Senior Center Advisory Board minutes from December 20th, the Board of Health from January 31st, Park Rec and Forestry from February 20th, RDA from March 15th, and the Downtown Main Street Task Force from March 22nd. Comments or questions on any of those minutes? All right, very good. Let's go to communications and recommendations. We have a couple of brief presentations tonight. Our first is from the Watertown Family Connections. I'm going to invite Ms. Curtis up to the microphone.
I was going to do a long presentation, but I'll do it brief.
No one told you?
No, no one told
I'm
me.
kidding.
They said there was no time limit. I
I'm
could go as
kid-
long
I-
as I want.
yes,
I'm
there
just
isn't.
teasing. No. It's been a long day. I would just like to say thank you all for letting me be here tonight. I just wanted to share that April is Family Strengthening Month. And what is just Family Strengthening Month? This is the month and throughout the year, Watertown Family Connections encourages all individuals and organizations to support family strengthening efforts in Wisconsin. Children do well when their parents do well, and research shows that positive childhood experiences in nurturing environments provide fertile ground for children's physical and mental health, learning, and social skills. We can all build healthier and safer, thriving communities for our children if we work together to collaboratively support our children and families. So that's Family Strengthening Month, and we're going to be celebrating that at Watertown Family Connections. Today we kicked off our Strengthening Family Month with a superhero-themed playgroup, and the staff got to wear capes today, so it was fun. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what we've been doing. Watertown Family Connections, formerly Watertown Family Center, has been in our community since 1994. I have been the executive director since 2005, and when I came on board in 2005, it was just a very small family resource center with a budget of about $50,000, maybe. And now here we are in 2000.
Carol's closing the doors out of
Okay.
politeness, but we legally have to keep them
In
open.
2023.
Thank you.
And we have grown by leaps and bounds. When I was first at the center, we had playgroups and open gyms and a few parenting ed classes. Now, if you look in your folders, I won't go through all of them, but you can see our robust programming that we have to offer to the community. And we've been able to do that through a series of grants that we received from the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation and the Prevention Board, the Quirk Foundation, the Darcy Foundation, the City of Watertown, and some others. And we've been very fortunate. And what we've also done, before we moved, and for all of you who don't know, we've moved from the YMCA into the library. And that was a relationship that Peg Check and I worked on for over 2 years, and we continue to work on that. It's a dynamic, innovative relationship. There are no other family resource centers that are located in a library in the state of Wisconsin or the United States. We searched, we could not find it because we tried to find a roadmap of how we could put our two organizations together. But we both have about the same kind of missions, and we worked together. And instead of competing against one another, we are working and have complementary programs. So that's how we are looking at it. We also added a resource network center to Watertown Family Connections, and that's a level of access that families can reach out to us. We typically work with families 0 to 5, but we do work with other families too if they're in time of need, and we can connect them to a resource, or we can do a referral so they can get more targeted and intensive help. Things that we have found with having our resource center, we've found gaps in our community that we didn't really realize that we had. You know, because we were so small, we weren't out there working. And Allison, who's my resource network coordinator, has been working with organizations in Dodge and Jefferson County, locally here in Watertown, and we've discovered there's a lack of affordable housing, which I think you all know. There's a lack of childcare. We need to get some more organizations to work together instead of being siloed. So we're working on connecting, not just only connecting families, but connecting organizations to work with one another. So we, like I said, we have grown by leaps and bounds, and we truly appreciate all your support and your continued support that you've given us. And we hope that you will continue to do that. And also, thank you for supporting your youngest citizens of your community. So we know that by supporting families, we'll have strong families, which makes a strong community, which helps with our workforce, and all that goes together. And I just want to share, when we talk about childcare, I shared this in Beaver Dam when we were talking about childcare. We worked with a dad who had gotten custody of his 18-month-old son. He lived at the Washington Hotel. He got a job. He couldn't find a job in Watertown, but found a job in Oconomowoc, and he couldn't find any child care here. So he had found somebody in Marshall. So he would leave every day from Watertown, drive to Marshall, drive to Oconomowoc, then drive back to Marshall, drive back to Watertown. We were fortunate enough to last year that I received a small amount of funds that we could give away for rent. I don't have it now, but we were able to help pay for rent because he was spending money on gas. We were also able to do fuel. We were also able to help families who were on SHARES program with child cares, and we were also able to help them pay some of their fees because they didn't have enough money to pay their co-pays. So those are things that we're seeing in Watertown, and they're continuing. And we're not just a place where people come and play or open gyms and parenting lab. We're doing a lot more. And also I have to say that our parents, when they come in, our families when they come in, it isn't just come in and your kid is playing. We have everything arranged so that it's the parent and the child are engaged and they're working together, and we're working on kindergarten readiness and setting those building blocks and goals for them so they can be successful in school. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Before you go, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Curtis? I appreciate you coming and presenting to us and
Thank
just
you.
highlighting the partnerships that you have forged
And
with your
then
organization.
I have a question. Is it okay if we send our minutes, our monthly minutes
Yeah.
to you so you have them in your board packet so
Sure.
you guys can see them? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you. All right, our next item is the 2022 Community Health Needs Assessment Report. I'm going to invite up Ms. Quest.
Good evening, everyone. You received a copy of the Community Health Assessment in your council packet. I'm going to just give you a little bit of history with the work that we've been doing since 1994, when there was state legislative changes that required local health departments to conduct a community health assessment every 5 years. Since that time, we have been conducting a community health assessment every 5 years until the Affordable Care Act. With the Affordable Care Act, that required hospitals to conduct a community health assessment every 3 years. So with partnership within the two-county region, our Dodge and Jefferson County partners, with the organization of Dodge Jefferson Healthier Community Partnership, which consists of representation from the hospitals across the two counties, as well as the 3 health departments, the Community Health Foundation. We have other community partners. A few medical providers are on our partnership. That is the organization of Dodge Jefferson Healthier Community Partnership. When we first conducted our first community health assessment in 1995, we identified some of the same priority areas that we identified in our 2022. So As Stephanie mentioned, we're identifying gaps, and we continue to work on those gaps. We have opportunities to work together, and with working with our partners across the two-county area, we're able to find efficiencies in the work we do. This is a significant lift to do a community health assessment and then to develop a community health improvement plan around those priority areas. I just want to outline for you the process that we engaged in 2022. So we really started our work in April of 2022. We developed a survey similar to the previous survey that we used. We made sure that when we presented that survey to the community, that it was accessible. We wanted to make sure that it was available through the internet if people had internet capacity for ease of completing the survey. We also had the survey available, paper copies in English and Spanish. We had those surveys available with our partners like the Community Resource Center, the library, City Hall, laundromats, many other locations across the community. So we completed that survey. We also held focus groups. We had 8 different focus groups. A few of them were our local medical providers. We had senior citizens. We had a youth focus group. But we had 8 different groups of individuals that came to engage in conversation as expanding on their understanding of what the community had to offer them and where the gaps were in our community. We then kind of completed that process with a community health summit, which I believe many of you, or some of you were able to attend, but you were all invited. And during that summit, we identified, the group of individuals at that summit identified the priority areas. And I know I've presented that to you through the Board of Health minutes. The Board of Health reviewed those priority areas in November, but I'm going to just repeat them for you. So, and these are not in any order of importance. They're all very important. So the priority areas are access to affordable quality mental health care, access to affordable quality housing, and affordable and reliable transportation, and access to affordable quality child care. And making sure that we're looking at these gap areas with an equity lens. Looking at our most vulnerable community members, making sure that we're including them in our planning. You have already committed resources of our city to housing and childcare, and the community will benefit from that in ways that none of us will understand unless you're really struggling with housing and childcare, like Stephanie just mentioned. And the story that she just gave you is not unusual in our community. Individuals really struggling to find housing and childcare are significant. So thank you for the dedication you've already committed to those 2 priority areas. We are now forming work groups to work on reliable transportation and affordable and quality mental health services in our community. We will develop our community health improvement plan, and over the next 3 years, we will develop interventions, community-wide interventions across the 2 counties that will make mental health care and transportation more accessible to everybody. I'm going to just leave it at that. My Board of Health members may have additional comments, but I would take any questions that you might have, and I appreciate this opportunity to share this report with you.
We have to leave the doors open. Sorry.
We have to leave them open.
Yeah.
We always used to close them too, but yeah.
Ms. Davis.
Yep.
I really appreciated reading this report. I spent a lot of time looking through it. I found it very helpful to better understand the process that was involved, your findings, and then the direction you're going to go. I do have a question. In 2022, we allocated $10,000 of ARPA fund to a community health improvement plan. Is this the result?
So this is the assessment.
Okay.
And so we work with a consulting company to help compile the secondary data, but also to do focus groups, the summit, and with all of our partners. And that $10,000 did go to this work, and will continue to support the community health improvement plan with the work groups as they develop strategies that those resources will be used within our community.
So there are a couple things in the report that really stood out to me as I was reading through it. One of them is on page 36, where it has the demographic information between Watertown, Dodge County, Jefferson County, and then Wisconsin. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the median household income. So for Jefferson, the median household income is about $71,000. That drops $10,000 for Dodge, which is $61,000. But Watertown comes in at about $59,000, and both Watertown and Dodge then are below the Wisconsin household median income. And I think that's important for us to understand, at least it is for me as a council member. You know, we spend a lot of time being very careful about how we're allocating money. And for me, it is helpful for me to keep that $59,000 in mind. I think it's helpful to understand and maybe personalize a little bit the costs that are involved, where I can say to myself or think to myself, well, that's 12 median household incomes. That's how much that costs. So I think keeping that number at forefront is really important for us here as we are making decisions about finance, considering the citizens that are in Watertown and that's the median household income. But I found some other stuff interesting, if you don't mind. One thing was on page 47, where it takes a look at the county rankings. And so in Wisconsin, I learned from this report, the counties are ranked on various different areas. And Dodge and Jefferson both have many strengths, many good things that are going on in these communities. But they also, both of them, have the same areas of opportunity. And those three opportunities are smoking, adult obesity, and then excessive drinking. And then if you go on to the page 54, there's some graphs that really expand on that, specifically in the area of excessive drinking. So Dodge and Jefferson are well above the U.S. average for excessive drinking, and they do follow the Wisconsin trend. But I think even more disturbing, though, is the graph on page 54, where it has the alcohol-impaired driving deaths. And so Jefferson is well above the Wisconsin trend, and Dodge has been increasing over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's the number of deaths that are a result of alcohol. And that kind of follows the police report that we saw at our last council meeting, where in the last couple of years there's been an increase in, I believe it was DWIs, or was it DUI? OWI. And that could be in part because in 19 and 20, especially with COVID, there were fewer people getting out and about. The chief kind of explained that to me, and so there were fewer arrests. But actually, we see that same trend then with Dodge, where we're seeing more alcohol impaired as a result of excessive drinking and more deaths as a result of that. So that was really interesting to me. And then it also follows some other research that's out there. And I actually wasn't quite sure about the source of this research, so it was helpful for me to see the data in this particular report. The source is from something called 24/7 Wall, and it said that in 2022, and this again is backed up by the data in this report, Wisconsin was the state with the most excessive drinking in all of the United States, and that 41 out of the 50 counties that have the most excessive drinking are Wisconsin counties, and that Jefferson is number 28 in the whole country. So that's something that's really startling and something that's concerning to me. I understand that your 4 focus areas this year are not in the area of substance abuse, but they were in 2019, and I found that part in the report. And so in 2019, one of the areas of focus was substance abuse, and due to COVID, the narrative said, and lack of funding, they weren't able to do everything they wanted to, but they got a lot of good stuff done. And I was reading over that initiative in 2019, and the focus very much was on education, educating school systems, educating the community, what kinds of resources are available, what is substance abuse, how can it be avoided, all that kind of thing. And as I was reading that, I thought, there's one little thing missing here. I think that governing bodies, I think that councils and community organizations like us, we need to be educated, because this is pretty serious. if we're seeing these kinds of trends even growing in Dodge County and Jefferson County, then really as council members, we're kind of on the front lines with this. Not responsible, but certainly part of our responsibility is the public welfare of our community members. So this is probably something for further conversation in the future. I know it's not a part of this initiative, but I personally would welcome so much more education, not only on excessive drinking in our community and the effects that that's having on mental health, on rising costs of healthcare, but also, are there things that we can do as a governing body to help to turn that a little bit? What can we do as we sit here and we, there's ordinances and things like that? Because I do think that that's part of our role too, is to consider the health and welfare of our community. And so I would very much welcome that. I wouldn't by any means speak on behalf of the council, but I think I also wanted to point this out. I just did a quick Google search, and I found that the CDC already has a toolkit available for communities, and it's specifically for governing bodies, and they use data-driven, research-based ideas that have been effective in communities in turning around these growing trends of excessive drinking. So I wasn't able to delve into that very much, but I would welcome more information, and I just wanted to throw that out there and say maybe in the future that's something we could work towards.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm emailing myself the CDC things so that we talk about it at our next touch base. Thank you for the studious comments. Mr. Lampy.
I think we'll just go in numbered order down the districts. First I want to build on what you said. I saw you looking around the pictures here. The reference to page 54 was 54 in the packet, 34 in the report. If you wanted to flip back to that and take a look at that real fast. That has the death graph. Yeah, it's not encouraging. Give you a second to find that for a second, and I'll go to the other thing I was going to talk about. Yep, you're right there. Just went right by it.
The other way.
Yep. Up.
Oh.
54 in the packet, Mark.
Yeah,
You
it's
might just type it in.
yeah, it's page 54 in the packet.
The other way.
Oh, she's going the right way.
Here we go.
There you go.
Okay, so go up just a little bit, and those are the graphs you're
Yes,
talking about, right,
that's true.
Gina? Okay. Okay, now the one that I wanted to look at is actually on 71.
In the packet?
71 in the packet.
I asked Mark if he would do this about 30 seconds before the meeting started, so
Yeah.
thanks, Mark.
So this one I wanted to come back to again, and as we were sitting, Fred and I both sit on the current health board. We had talked with Carol extensively when this report was put out, and we took a look at it extensively when it was here. I just think that this is probably one of the best summaries in the report of those three things that Carol brought forward to us. So, identifies mental health, identifies the housing, identifies the child care, and with regard to the investments that we've made over the past year, very clearly we've made investments in housing. We can, just that 100,000 we put in ARPA, and there's other obviously activities that are ongoing in the housing frame. Child care, again, we had a straight $400,000 piece from ARPA right into that, and there's again other measures that we're doing in the community to support that. And then mental health is one of the other outliers out there. I do think that, as you had mentioned, I do think that is very heavily tied to substance abuse. It's certainly tied to violence, as we're seeing in a lot of institutions around here. But I think one of the other opportunities here on the mental health thing is that as part of the recommendations that are coming forward here is around, bring providers to workplaces, employers, talk about mental health share services, normally self-care. One of the ones that I wanted to talk about with respect to the city's health plan, is this applicable? Are we actually leading in this area? As well as basically putting forward the guidance.
We have an EAP program available to our city staff, and I don't know the utilization of that, but it is available, and I know we do a lot of education to our employees to support employees seeking out assistance. We do also have coverage for mental health care with our health coverage.
Yeah, the only
I'm
other
not sure of
thing
the details.
I would add is we have started in the last maybe 3 years doing concerted training around kind of these softer skills or mental health aspects of our jobs. We just did one about wellness to our management team through free resources, whether it's through our EAP or through the League of Municipalities, being through the League Mutual Insurance, so through one of our insurance providers. I think there's always room for improvement. You can only go so far with free resources, so that's what we've been trying to tap into. But yeah, yes, and you can ask anyone in this room. We try to normalize needing to take, whether it's a sick day or a mental health day. We try to just kind of normalize those self-care aspects of needing to work from home so you can clear out your email inbox or whatever it may be. So but I'm probably biased, but the people in this room that work with me every day, I think we have started to make more headway on this than in the last few years.
And we have an opportunity in our community where there are mental health professionals coming to the table. We're inviting them to have conversations and developing more of a comprehensive community approach, so making more opportunities for community connectedness. And I think our new library is a great environment to make that happen. We need to be thinking about broader population interventions, not just the one-on-one, that we know we need that as well. But how can we bring community members together to help individuals feel engaged and being part of something, which also lends itself to improved relationships, opportunities that don't involve alcohol. Those are all really important opportunities, and we just need to build more of those, and we're working on that. Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Schmidt?
So I'll touch a little bit on the mental health, and Alderman Lampe and Alderman Davis did touch on the fact that it is the lead issue that we see from root causes that stem from other issues. Substance abuse is a key one that does impact mental health, because most mental health, from a clinical standpoint, is a chemical imbalance of some sort caused either from illegal or prescription substances, alcohol, diet, or environmental issues due to exposure, contamination, or potentially head trauma. TBI would be the official term, or mild TBI for traumatic brain injury. This is something I dealt with in the military for near to 2 decades, specifically related to suicide intervention and prevention. So this is an issue that I'm very intimate with, and the government has spent billions of dollars over the decades to address this issue, and with few exceptions, programs fall flat on their faces, and it comes down to a simple issue of trust. If the individual stakeholders that need it the most do not trust the individual providers providing it, it doesn't matter how much money we throw at it, it won't work. But if you have people who are going to be intimately involved, who can gain the trust of the community, and the community knows that they can trust us and they trust the providers providing the support, we will truly see an impact in our community, and these numbers will then decrease. The number of alcohol deaths will proportionately decrease, because there's another report that's out there that says Wisconsin's the drunkest state in the country, and other jurisdictions outside of the state will specifically target Wisconsin plates on vehicles for stops over other states due to the higher level of drunkenness from our state. And I don't know about the rest of the council members, I find that offensive. So we can work together to address those issues, and we can look at addressing as a council, can we reduce the number of permits available in the community? Reduce access, without taking away, because we can, obviously, from a constitutional standpoint. But is it too freely accessible? Are we doing enough as community leaders to stress activities that build physical health, build nutritious health? I know the Department of Health and the community outreach centers have basic parenting, basic education, basic life skills available through the outreach programs, which is phenomenal. I think we need to look at those issues, the contributing factors first, and by addressing those root issues, the umbrella of mental health will, by default, be reduced in its severity in its context.
Thank you. Anyone else on this one for Carol? Mr. Lampe?
I guess the one other thing I wanted to point out here, on, since we're still on this one, if you go up just a little bit, it's a little bit out of order, so this one goes 4, 1, 2, 3. But if you look at the fourth item up there's an aspect of essentially equitable access to items, and that one is in there in part to essentially address some of the barriers that, as you say, don't allow people who would benefit from these things to trust the providers. And so the use of the word equitable access in this particular case, in some cases, means establishing that two-way trust. So again, I was very happy to see this particular view come through, and a lot of those issues that I think are at the forefront with regard of the providers and the people who need the help, being able to trust each other. That's sort of baked into this plan, and that's what I believe the term here was intended to be woven throughout. But that's when we're talking about barriers, basically there's an element of trust that is achieved without those barriers.
Anybody else on this one? I appreciate the insightful discussion and all the prep work. I know this is a big lift, and we are leveraging an AmeriCorps worker to implement and kind of further this work along with some of members of your team, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the work continues,
It
but I
does.
appreciate the
Always,
insight.
yes. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Carol. All right. Carol, don't go too far, just in case there's questions. The other item in your packet is the DHS 140 review approval letter. This is just an FYI. Does anyone have any questions on that? Mr. Smith?
Not a question, but I just wanted to take this opportunity when we've had all of this presentation, documentary and verbally this evening, about the ongoing aspects of the City Department of Public Health and the tremendous services that are being provided, sometimes perhaps not as high visibility as some of the other departments, but we are tremendously well served in the city of Watertown by our health department, and probably no community in the state has been better served during the course of this pandemic than Watertown has. The health department leadership and the staff has worked tirelessly to serve the city during this incredibly difficult time. And then in the midst of all of that and the ongoing health programs that are just part of their annual responsibilities, there was this huge needs assessment that was undertaken, and every 5 years there is the requirement by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services that all of the operations of the city health department are reviewed. That's the 140 review that's addressed by this letter. Now, to gain the magnitude of what all of this planning and all of these services in the midst of this extraordinary demand for public health in the midst of a pandemic is the fact that the needs assessment itself was over 110 pages long and lays out a roadmap for future services that will tremendously benefit the city, but all require a huge investment of effort in planning and implementation and obviously funding. And I thought, what could we do? Obviously, all of these documents have been in here, and all of the council members are fortunate to be able to read it and get a sense of what's actually part of the provision of this tremendously important area of service for our community. But I thought the community as a whole may not know exactly how notable the public health services are in our community and how wonderfully well served the community as a whole is by our health department. And so we have this short 3-paragraph letter that we received from the state health officer, which documents the fact that we have been recertified after 5 years as a level 2 health department, and it highlights to the city the perspective of the state on what a notable health department we have here in the community. And if it's permissible, I would just love to read this, because this is how our community will know, those that are watching, and if it's picked up by the newspaper, about all of these commendable aspects of what came through in this 140 review. And it's written to the chair of our City Health Board, Dr. Rowe. Dear Dr. Rowe, the Department of Health Services congratulates the Watertown Department of Public Health for demonstrating the infrastructure and program capacity to be certified as a Level 2 health department. I am happy to report the Watertown Department of Public Health provided all services required by statute and rule. I want to acknowledge the work of the Watertown Department of Public Health staff. Carol Quest, health officer, did an excellent job of providing quality evidence of meeting statutes and rules. I am acutely aware of the stress of operating a health department, and that the demands on public health directors and professionals have increased exponentially during this state and global pandemic. I applaud the dedicated efforts of Carol and the Watertown Department of Public Health staff to keep your jurisdiction healthy and safe. I also appreciate the support of the City of Watertown Board of Health for maintaining a strong public health department. Pandemic response has potentially caused you and your jurisdiction to think about public health issues you may have not considered before. I am sure with ongoing support for evidence-based quality public health initiatives by you and your fellow board health officers, the Watertown Department of Public Health will continue to protect and promote the health of the people of this of your jurisdiction. And it's signed by the state public health officer. And I think this is an amazing testimony to the commitment by the city, our mayor, the council over the years, and the leadership in our health department and all of their staff to do exactly what this identifies: protecting and promoting the health of the people in our jurisdiction. And we are so fortunate with the health department and the services provided, and admittedly they're lower visibility, but they work tirelessly, and I just want to ensure that everything possible is done to acknowledge the tremendous way in which our city is being served in this extremely important area. And I thank you, Madam Mayor, and our Public Health Officer, Carol Quest, for leadership in this extremely important area.
Thank you. That was very kind. I think this is a great week to have Carol present on these two items, because it is Public Health Week. It's National Public Health Week. So if you are interested in sharing in the sentiment of Mr. Smith, send an email to Carol. She'll get it to her team to be able just to thank them for the work they do. I don't think people realize every time you go into a restaurant, or if you live in the county, you drink from a well, and everything in between, this public health department makes sure that we are staying safe in the work that we do. So I echo your sentiment, Mr. Smith. I appreciate you taking the time to acknowledge it. And Carol's been a tenant of this city for a very long time, and is a major piece of our city leadership team. And that team of hers is a well-oiled machine, and I'm thankful for them as well. So thank you. Anyone else want to comment or just make Carol feel really good about herself today? 'Cause she deserves it. You know, I haven't looked lately, but when the pandemic started, we were one of only 16 municipalities in the state of Wisconsin that had their own health department. And people asked me many times during the pandemic, like, would you change that? No. I mean, the level of service that our residents get because of the 10 people that you have that work there full-time, is that 10, 12? Right around there. The small staff that we have is pretty remarkable. So, okay. Anyone else? Thank you. All right, thanks, Carol. Okay, let's go to the accounts payable.
Move we pay our accounts payable.
All right, motion by Mr. Romline, second by Mr. Wetzel. Any discussion on the accounts? Megan?
Romline? Davis?
Aye.
Lampy? Ritten?
Abstain.
Bartz?
Aye.
Licht?
Aye.
Smith? Schmidt?
Aye.
Wetzel?
Aye.
Motion passed 8-0.
Very good. Let's go to miscellaneous business. You have the payroll summary from February 22nd to March 7th and March 8th to 21st. Any questions or comments on that one? And then you also have the credit card purchases over $10,000 for both January and February. Questions on either of those? All right. Let's go to ordinances. The first is ordinance 23-04. This is an ordinance to repeal Chapter 341 impact fees and Article 4 excess capacity sewer service charge of Chapter 508 wastewater facilities. This is here from Mr. Wetzel in Public Works on the second reading. Motion by Mr. Wetzel and second by Mr. Romline. Discussion from anyone on this one? Megan?
Wetzel?
Aye.
Romline?
Aye.
Davis? Lampy? Ritten? Bartz?
Aye.
Licht?
Aye.
Smith? Schmidt?
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
Very good. Next is ordinance 23-05. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 288, Articles 1 and 2 of the Erosion and Sediment Control. This is again from Mr. Wetzel in Public Works on its second reading.
I'll move for adoption of ordinance 2305 on its second reading.
Motion by Mr. Ritten, second by Mr. Licht. Any questions or comments on this one on the second reading? Megan?
Ritten? Bartz?
Aye.
Licht?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Wetzel?
Aye.
Romline?
Aye.
Davis? Lampy? Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 23-06. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 356 landscaping, again for Mr. Wetzel in Public Works on the second reading.
Also move.
Motion by Mr. Wetzel, second by Mr. Romline. Questions on this one? Comments? Megan?
Wetzel?
Aye.
Romline?
Aye.
Davis? Lampy?
Aye.
Ritten?
Aye.
Bartz?
Aye.
Licht?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 23-07. This is an ordinance to amend Articles 1 and 2 of Chapter 453 Stormwater Management, again for Mr. Wetzel in Public Works on its second reading.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2307 on its second reading.
Motion by Mr. Ritten, second by Mr. Bartz. Discussion on this one? Megan?
Ritten?
Aye.
Bartz?
Aye.
Licht?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Wetzel?
Aye.
Romline?
Aye.
Davis? Lampy?
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you. And our last is ordinance 23-08. This is an ordinance to create Article 3 of Chapter 453 Stormwater Management, again for Mr. Wetzel in Public Works on its second reading.
308.
Motion by Mr. Wetzel, second by Mr. Romline. Any discussion on this one? Megan?
Wetzel?
Aye.
Romline?
Aye.
Davis? Lampy? Ritten? Bartz? Licht?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
Very good. We do have another opportunity for comments from citizens present, if anyone would like to comment. And virtually, Megan is just Stephen, Maureen, and Jane Ellen. All right, without that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Licht, second by Mr. Bartz. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.